Okay. Hello and welcome to today's Virtual RYG. As we wait for other attendees to join, can you please place your name, title, company, and where you're from in the live chat? And so we'll go ahead and wait a little bit for everybody to kind of filter through for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get kicked off. As we have people start to join us, please let me just note some housekeeping things. We will not have a Q&A session at the end, so please take advantage of the chat window and the Q&A on the sidebar in order for you to participate and ask any questions. We'll be looking through those questions and making sure that we answer them throughout the course of our RYG today. We will also be recording this, so that recording will be made available to you, I believe, 24 hours after the end of our RYG today. So you'll be able to review what we've talked about and have a chance to see all of the conversation there. Again, we'll go ahead and give a couple of everybody a couple more minutes to filter through. If you're just joining us now, please feel free to place your name, title, your company, and where you're from in that live chat.
I see a couple familiar names. Hi, Rent Dynamics and Boardable folks. Good to see you guys. New Zealand. That's awesome.
Awesome. So it looks like people are filtering through. We'll go ahead and kind of get kicked off here. Again, thank you for joining us at the Virtual RYG for Customer Success Operations. I know this is a hot topic these days. Our goal is really to create an informal atmosphere for our CS leaders. So we ask that you participate using the Q&A and chat functions. I mentioned earlier at the very beginning of the webinar, we will not have a Q&A at the very end of the session. So please feel free to interact, chat, and upvote any questions that come in on that right-hand navigation panel. I'll go ahead and introduce our panel today. My name is Bora. I'm our Manager of Customer Enablement here at ChurnZero, and I will be your moderator for today. We also are joined by Jennifer Jones, who's the Senior Director of CS Operations at Vector Solutions, as well as Rachel Yockey, our VP of Experience from Really NC. Excuse me. I'm going to give the opportunity to Jennifer and Rachel to introduce themselves here today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Jones. And as Bora said, I'm the Senior Director of Customer Success Operations for Vector Solutions. We're an e-learning and operational readiness organization providing content, LMS platforms, and other types of operational platforms such as scheduling and asset management to a wide variety of customers in the public sector, education, and commercial industries. I've been there for 9 years now, started off in a CSM role, and now have worked through, was in leading the customer success team for quite a while, and have since moved into customer success operations. Prior to that, I worked in organizational development for a large manufacturing company and as well as a retail company.
Awesome. And my name is Rachel Yockey. I'm the VP of Experience with RealLink. We're based in Indianapolis, and I've been with the company for about 5 years. I started my career at a commercial real estate brokerage firm, moved over to a wireless technology firm, and this opportunity was the best of both worlds to marry technology with real estate. I lead up our entire client success and experience organization. So my team oversees everything from post-signature through onboarding and implementation, adoption, support, and usage and strategy. Super excited to be here and have this conversation today.
Perfect. I appreciate those intros. So we'll go ahead and kind of get kicked off with today's discussion topics. So we have 3 topics today. The first topic is delineating the roles and functions between CS and CS operations. Our second one is when to add CS ops and how to advocate for the role. And the last one, goals and metrics for CS ops. So we'll go ahead and kick off with our first slide and our first discussion point, delineating the roles and functions between CS and CS operations. Rachel, I'll go ahead and kind of let you kick off here. I know that there's a lot of different roles and functions that can overlap here. I'd love to hear your opinion about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit more background about us post or pre-COVID. We were scaling and growing and had good traction in our industry. We play specifically in multifamily with apartments. We do video touring technology. And pre-COVID, we were a full company team of 6, and only 2 of us were focused specifically on client experience and success. We exploded due to the COVID, the need for people to be able to do virtual touring. And so we went from a team of 6 to a team of 8 in CS really quickly. My team is tiny in comparison to Jen's, which she'll talk about a little bit later. But it very quickly became very evident that we needed a CS operations person. So delineating the roles for us means that my client success managers are focused specifically on the client, their success, their strategy, their adoption, that relationship aspect of it. They are on training calls and on strategy calls. We do a lot of champion calls as well. Every day, they're using ChurnZero and the tools that we have to deliver successful suggestions to our clients and help them be where they need to be with our product. So when we knew that there were tools that we had in place that we weren't taking advantage of, that was when it was really evident that we needed someone else. So we brought in, for us, her name is Lauren, and I always describe her, she's my right arm. And so I'm always thinking big picture and strategy and usually coming up with some harebrained idea. And she's the realist on the team that says, okay, cool, we can make that happen, but we need to do that in a scalable and consistent way. And how are we going to use our tools to do that? And so she's very much more strategically minded and very thoughtful and thorough in how she does things. And so it's really her job to empower our client success managers to do their jobs well. So that's how we're delineating between CSMs and CS ops.
Yeah, I think we're very much in line here at Vector with what Rachel has described. We recently have gone through a massive transformation from within our customer success organization. Really and truly would have been nice to have had customer operations, I'm going to say probably about 3 to 5 years ago. We grow significantly through acquisition. And, and so Rachel referenced our large team. A lot of that is because we've acquired so many businesses, and really the need for customer success operations arose out of that for us. And our differentiator, if you will, between ops and customer success is customer facing. So to Rachel's point, our CSMs are full-time with the customers. That's what they do. And it's our role in customer operations really to provide them with the tools and the the tools and the processes that they need to be successful. So we want to remove any barriers, any roadblocks, and make it easy for them to do their jobs. And a big portion of that is, sounds like Lauren's your scalability person, Rachel, and that's really key for customer operations and in that delineation. We take a step back and we look at things from a bigger picture, if you will, because we're not having to deal with the day-to-day, whether it's my product or my service isn't working the way I would like it to, or something along those lines. So it really, really is key to have that customer operations as the foundation.
Love that. I think that makes total sense. Was there a threshold at some point, where you're like, okay, we have to start delineating these roles because the CSM can't handle kind of what that is?
Yeah, for us, we knew there were tools that we had in place, and we do this too as tech companies. I'm sure everybody listening, we all send out the emails. It's like, look at this cool new thing you can do with our tool, and we're reading them and we're like, that's awesome. Maybe someday I'll roll that out. So that was when basically, like, if we knew that a CSM might have a little bit of capacity but not enough to bring a project to fruition, that's a breaking point for us.
Awesome. So I'm slowly going to go ahead and actually release a poll and give folks the opportunity to ask any questions at this particular point in time around dedicated CS operations roles there. So go ahead and give me some submissions there. Ask any questions, please, if you have any in the Q&A box before we move forward. I think this is a really good segue into moving towards the next kind of topic here, which I think is a hot topic, when we start to talk about when and how do we know to have that role and how do we advocate for that. So we'll give everybody a couple more minutes here, and then we'll go ahead and check that Q&A just to see if we have any questions for our presenters. All right, so it looks like we have some kind of numbers in here. Almost half have a dedicated role, which is very, very cool. We have some who have plans to create, and then some with no plans to create at this time. So a really, really good mix. Let me go ahead to the Q&A and see if we have any specific questions. All right, from Dove, I have here, how do you separate the administrative work from the strategic work of CS Ops? Jennifer, do you want to take that?
I can take that one. Yeah, so we're actually a small customer operations team. There's just two of us. And it's in my role, I really am the strategist. So I work with all of our department heads, not only within the customer success organization, but across the business as a whole. So the things that we do in customer success have impact across the business, right? There's sales, there's account management, even marketing, product. We have a major impact with that. So being able to take a step back and understand how our processes are impacting that, what we can provide to them as stakeholders as well through the customer journey. And then I have a data analyst, Jessica, who is a godsend, much like Rachel's Lauren. And she, the difference with her is that she is the person who goes in and she does the data mining. She does a lot of the hands-on things that need to be done in terms of information gathering, outlining the processes and that sort of thing. And then really I go back through and poke some holes in it, if you will, to make sure that what we've put in place is going to stand the test of time as we look at our customer experience as well as our internal stakeholder experiences.
Awesome. We've got some interesting questions here. I'm going to combine a couple of them. So we have some folks asking around the definition of the CS Ops role, and I'm going to roll that in with also the differentiation between CS Ops and CS Enablement. Mm-hmm. Rachel, if you'd like to kick off.
Yeah, we're still a small and scaling company. And so for us, it's still very much all hands on deck, and we haven't delineated out those tasks just yet. For us, CS includes every client-facing, every user-facing function, from implementation, onboarding, strategy, and support. So for us, our CS Ops is the behind the scenes. Like Jen was mentioning earlier, they're not client-facing, they're empowering, making sure that our ChurnZero plays and journeys are set up to help us be successful. We use Intercom, having that set up and pushing notices. And so for us, Ops is in the background, empowering our CSMs. Our CSMs are everything that's front of house.
Jennifer, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, we're We have started to delineate the roles. So, our CSMs used to do all of the things it sounds like Rachel's are doing now. They don't anymore. So we now have an implementation team. We have a training and solutions team. We've got customer ops, again, working on the back end. So from that perspective, we have some delineation there. In terms of, customer operations versus customer enablement, right now, we don't have any delineation there. We're, from the perspective of everything that the customer ops team does needs to support the customer enablement. So what we put in place has to work for the customer.
Awesome. I'm going to skip down to one last question before we move on, because we have a lot of questions kind of around CS ops, when to add and when to advocate for that role. One I think is a good question here from Emily is, do you ever see a manager of success of a customer success team do similar functions as a CS ops role? And can that role be combined into one? Right, so manager of customer success and CS ops in the same role. I'll open up the floor.
I'll jump in. Certainly anything is possible. And I think it depends on what the circumstances are. We had a situation where we had a CSM who had a smaller book of business. And what she was able to do was work on special projects that were related to customer operations and bring those to fruition. But that's how she was set up. If somebody's managing what you in your business would consider a full book of business, it's going to be very, very challenging. I think, you could potentially set some things up as, developmental opportunities and carve some time out for people. But it gets pretty rough in terms of the amount of time it takes to do some of the things that we work on in customer operations, from gathering data to, meeting with all the different stakeholders and putting all the pieces in place. It's pretty rough to do it long term, I think.
Yeah, and I would chime in that you need to have a real, honest conversation, whether this is you or someone on your team, about what is the skill set of this person and where do they really thrive? Client success managers want to be client facing. They want to be helping people. They want to be finding solutions, and they thrive when they're interacting and they're being social and they're on those calls and finding solutions. Operations people are much more focused on getting data cleaned up, making sure processes are tacked down. And that can be a very yin and yang relationship. And so you need to be real honest about what is my skill set or this person's skill set, and are they going to be happy in a blended role? Because it can be very flashy too. And there are people out there that can do both and find fulfillment in both. But if you're one or the other, I would caution you not to try to bite off more than you can chew, thinking that this is a way for a promotion or to grow up the ladder, if you're going to be burnt out and miserable in 6 months because you aren't fulfilled on one side.
Completely fair. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our second topic, when to add CS operations and how to advocate for the role. This is something near and dear to my heart, so I'd love to hear some of that conversation.
If you find yourself saying, should we create another Google Sheet for that? Then yes, it is time for an operations person. Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. No, I would say I would second that.
I have a really great relationship with our finance manager, and he's very supportive of, if we've invested in ChurnZero or Intercom or Trello or insert any other tech investment you've made, we're not getting full fulfillment out of it. What do we need to do to realize that value of what we've invested in? So for us, we had a mess of data on our hands. I'll be transparent in that. We all do at some point in our journeys of scaling a company. You got to get it cleaned up, and you've got to be ready to provide the client or the customer experience that you want to provide. And if you are not providing that experience because you don't have the data and you don't have the tools to do your job, you're just digging your hole deeper and deeper. And so for us as a company, we've always leaned on investing heavily in the client experience because we believe that that's the right thing to do and that's the reputation we want to have in our marketplace. And so it's been investment forward for us as an organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same for us. And that, I wish we had a second poll here that said, how many people have sales operations in their organization? Because that's really, this is the next step, right? We're customer operations, so we're post-sale. So we need to, work with our leaders organizationally to help them understand that the post-sale experience that we're able to provide and being able to scale with the people that we have that are providing, these services to our customers is just as important as investing in bringing the new revenue in. It's great to bring the revenue in, but if you can't keep it because you don't have the right tools and processes in place to be able to, provide value to the customers, well, I'm going to say probably for most organizations, retention is the bigger number. So that's, I think, starting to take a look at it from that perspective as well is really important.
Definitely. I love that. I've actually heard of just a general rule of thumb around 10 million ARR to, kind of bring on a CS ops and kind of grow that. We actually have a number of questions just around what your current headcount CSM to CS ops is. And, does that make sense for your organization?
We were at 4.5 million ARR when we brought on CS ops. So we were investment heavy and investment forward. But we were also at a moment in our business where we were hockey sticking and we were going to crash and burn if we didn't get cleaned up. So for us, it was paramount to make that investment early to make sure we could scale and grow faster down the road.
Yeah, love that.
And that's something I wish certainly we would have done because we're, I think we're at 50, 60 right now, revenue. And we've got 14 separate products across 3 different business units. And, having to align an organization of a customer success organization of 100 people across all these, different companies that we've acquired and all the different tool sets, it's a lot of work. And I suggest, as early as you can get CS ops in there, the more the better.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a kind of another offshoot of that, which is, how do you ensure the CS ops role is sufficiently supporting the CS team? How do we make sure that we maintain and not cause our CSMs to have burnout because they're, having their hands in a lot of different things and they can, like Rachel said, focus on the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts around that?
Bora, just to clarify, how are we helping to prevent burnout? Like, how are we demonstrating value? Is that the question?
I think it's more around, how do we make sure the CS ops role is sufficiently supporting the CS team, whether that's in processes, whether that's in having the technology stack there and available, whether that's, standardizing processes. And if I'm rephrasing this wrong, Andrea, please let me know. But I think, how do we ensure that happens, that the CS role is doing what it's supposed to do?
I think you have to empower them to own their territory. To own that the product that they're managing and the projects that they're managing are theirs to lead with direction and with input. I don't lead by micromanaging. And so I guess empowering them to know where their territory and their boundaries are and to give them that power to go find new things that excite them. So it's hiring right. It's having the right culture on your team. And when you hire right and you have the culture, then you set them loose to get the work done. So I don't know if that's oversimplifying where the question really went, but you got to have the right people on the bus and then they'll go chase down and find problems for you and you don't have to find them.
Yeah. Love it. I'm actually going to take a step back and try to answer the second part of our discussion question today. So now that we know that we need CS ops, how do we advocate for that role? What does that look like? What are the, kind of business objectives you brought to your teams in order to be able to get that headcount in place?
And
I can say of technology, yeah. And I can say, for our particular situation at Vector, because of acquisition, bringing all these different companies on board, we needed a role that would be able to support that so that we could more quickly assimilate them into the business, which ends up, generating cost savings because we can let go of technologies that they may be contracted to use, and being able also to show the ROI. So, as we, just like you would purchase a piece of technology, right? Or you have to justify headcount. And what we were able to do was demonstrate from a business perspective how we would be able to help the organization scale, not only through not having to hire as many folks moving forward, but also through improvements in churn scores and expansion.
Perfect. So we have some questions just about kind of hierarchy. Where do you believe CS Ops should report? We have VP of CS, RevOps, CRO, some other leadership function. Rachel, you're smiling. I'm gonna toss that one over to you.
Oh, I love these debates. I was just having it with a friend this morning. So for us, because client experience all falls under me, I believe it should roll up to me. I roll up directly to our CEO. And ultimately, I believe that our churn rate is the CEO's problem because it's the product. Is the product built and functioning the way it's supposed to? Did we sell it the way that we were supposed to sell it? And are we onboarding and supporting it the way we should? So it's a full organizational issue. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that experience piece and what are we doing to make sure that the client success managers can do their jobs effectively, and do they have the tools, and are we measuring everything? I think that's got to go up to the person that's over the experience as a whole.
Love that. Jennifer, any thoughts?
Agreed. I report up to our VP of customer success, and he has ownership for all of the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, for post-sales support.
Cool. Another question we have here is, as we grow our CS ops team, when do we add the second or third person? I guess from my perspective, I also would love to hear, is that exponential? Do we hire them quicker? Do we hire them slower? What has that look like for you all?
Jen,
wow.
Loaded question.
Loaded question. I would like to probably add another 3 people, but it depends on what rate of growth. Growth isn't really the right word, but what rate of speed do you want to have as you look towards implementing the different things that you need organizationally, right? There really is for us, there's so much to do, right? And I would say this is probably true of most organizations that, where do we dabble? And we don't just support our customer success team. We support the implementation team, we support the support team. And so we have to be able to provide the services across the board. So what we do is we say, okay, this, based on our capacity, right, there's 2 of us, here are the things that we can accomplish this year. How does that align with the business goals? And then if there's more that we need to accomplish, and there's an organizational buy-in for that, then we can justify the headcount. And so it really comes back to how quickly are you trying to get things up and running? The more people you have, let's say if you're going to implement ChurnZero, for example, the more people that you have who can work on that, the faster it's going to be adopted across the board, and the faster people will be able to use that tool set. It's the same thing of any other tool set, whether it be, Salesforce Service Cloud or any other tool. So it really is going to come down to what you're trying to accomplish as an organization. And then if you can secure the budget for it.
I like it. I'm going to go ahead and actually we're able to put in that poll for you, Jennifer. So we're actually going to launch a poll around
Nice.
sales operations. Yeah, I'd love to see the output of this. Yes, we have sales ops. No, but we do plan to add sales ops and no plan to add sales ops in there. So we'll see. We'll kind of give folks a minute to go ahead and fill out that poll. While we're doing that, we've actually gotten a question around, any specific CS tools or platforms you've found to be essential in setting CS teams up for success. I know that tech stacks are really, really important, especially as we scale and as we build out processes and operations for our CS facing teams. But any thoughts on that? Any must-haves?
I mean, obviously ChurnZero. So I say that jokingly, but I also say that with complete seriousness. Jen earlier said she wished she had CS Ops earlier. I wish we'd implemented ChurnZero a long time before we did. That was one of those things where it's like, oh, but we're doing fine, we can get through. And then all of a sudden you're not getting through and you wish you would have had all the data. So our tech stack is Salesforce, is our sales engine.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously the data from our product, ChurnZero, and then we use Intercom. We use Trello for project management for our team on the side. So ChurnZero has really helped us in what we're trying to find the balance for, as the industry and our clients are very high touch, and we have been very high touch. And we're trying to build in that tech touch and some of that automation that still has that human element behind it. And that's how we're also trying to figure out and balance the scale and see if we can increase the ARR that each of our CSMs are managing as well. So if you don't have a CS tool, ChurnZero, whoever else, get it like yesterday. Find budget for that. I would argue you need a CS ops person first, because you need that detailed person that can sit in the weeds and make it all work. Otherwise, you've thrown money at something, and if you as a leader or a CSM don't have the time and ability to invest in it and make it work right, then you're burnt out, back to our burnout question, and you have tools that don't work, and then you're hiring CS ops to come fix it all. So I think that would be my recommendation. Yeah. CS ops first, ChurnZero or tools, and then move forward.
Awesome. Jennifer, any thoughts to add?
No, I would second that. I wish we would have had, customer operations, I've already been very clear. I wish we had that a while ago, but ChurnZero too, or if you choose a different customer success platform, most definitely, that. And then we use our Salesforce for most of our other tool set right now. But those are the key as you become more mature in your customer success operation. I think there are some other tools out there that are helpful in helping you identify other items coming out of customer feedback that are a little bit more qualitative. But I think most definitely, hands down, a CS platform is a must.
Perfect. And we just closed out the sales ops poll. And I think kind of as expected, we have about 65%, just under 65% that have a sales ops function, 10% that have plans to add that, and actually a 30% that have no plans to add a sales ops function. It's about what I think we expected, right? Sales ops is a fairly ingrained thing from the sales side of the organization. So some interesting numbers there. I'll actually go ahead and push us through to our last questions. So we've been starting to get a lot of questions around goals and metrics. It's all about the numbers, right? That's the only way we can get better. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what goals and metrics, Rachel, you manage for your team and kind of what you put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a firm believer that we need to work as a team. And I'm sure this is a common problem amongst everybody that's on the call, which is you unfortunately have to move logos from time to time. The other thing is we want our team and our CSMs to help each other out. They're going to take vacation, they're going to be in meetings all day, and we need everyone being able to jump in and help support each other. So we hunt as a pack, and there is one true north usage number that we're looking at across our entire user base. And that's our one true north measurement that we attack as a team. We do have it measured out by CSMs under our big overall portfolio, so they can each see the visibility for them. When it comes to CS Ops, they participate in the bonus events that are eligible based off of that usage, and then we measure them based off of special projects too. So for ChurnZero, if you're launching that, you want to get it stood up, you want to get all your data points plugged in, your data points functioning. And for us, when we launched ChurnZero, right now we have 3 active plays. So we know that there are 3 critical usage points that we wanted to go and attack. And those are the 3 plays that we have up and running. And that was one phase. And now we know, okay, we've attacked those 3. Let's get a little bit more granular and we can start to segment out users and put them into plays and journeys. And so it's just a phased approach. So to summarize all of that again, we have one shared team goal for usage across everybody in my CS organization. And then we have individual goals as well for special things that they're working on.
Got it. And Rachel, out of curiosity, do you tie to retention?
We tie to retention as an organization.
Got it.
Yeah, it all ties back to ARR. So the sales can sell all they want, but if we're the leaky bucket, we tie everything back to ARR.
Love it. Jennifer, any thoughts on, how you metric out your CS operations team?
Yeah, so retention we're tied to that. So we share the same bonuses, as Rachel was saying, the same incentives around that. And ours are around retention and net ACV growth, so annual contract value. So that's what we look at the highest level. And then there are so many more metrics that are out there because the retention is great, right? That's nice. But if you don't know all of the pieces that go into that and you're not tracking those indicators, you may end up with a not so hot number. So being able to understand what rolls into that, and to Rachel's point, that's where you can start to look at things like journeys and ChurnZero and are people on track? Are they off track? We're looking at NPS score as well. So we're using ChurnZero for that and running some campaigns and then running some plays off of that to ensure that as we're getting, these scores that come in particular detractors, right? That we're able to do something with the data that can help us achieve our overall retention goal.
Awesome. I also got a question here. How does CS Ops help with identifying revenue growth opportunities within an existing book of business? So
that's still on the docket for us. We do it right now. It's pretty qualitative. So it's through the customer success manager's sentiment. So are they feeling, have they, through their conversations, identified a need? For us, it's in particular around cross-selling products, different platforms. Have they identified a need through their conversations that a customer can benefit from this other type of platform, and being able to have, start the conversation around that. And then as we see people that are adopting new features earlier, that kind of puts a flag on them in terms of really, being right as we introduce new things as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. The only other thing I would add on for us is we're currently standing up services as well, and that sits on my operations person. And so for her, being in the data and being in and knowing where all of our super users are helps her identify who we should try to target and roll those services out to. So that's the other piece that we're using kind of cross-functionally right now too.
Got it. So I'm hearing we're tying to retention, we're tying to special projects that are associated with, the CS operations function, and maybe some other satisfaction type metrics that might be used at the moment. Awesome. We have some questions actually around kind of the CSM. What is the average CSM's ARR that they're managing for each of your companies?
The magic question. We were talking before we went live. Everybody wants the answer. Jen might have a better answer for this. We have about 300 to 350 clients that each of our CSMs are managing right now. I think you as an organization have to look at, are you profitable right now? And are you happy with the investment that you're making in CSMs in the CS organization right now? If you're too heavy, then adjust that number and make it heavy. If you're not providing the experience and you're short-staffed and burning your staff out, then you need to up that investment. But that's where we're kind of at, is just evaluating, are we happy with the investment that we're making right now? And is that the choice as an organization that we're making and investing in the experience? So if anybody finds the magic number, I will happily take it.
Yeah, we were talking before the call, and we have about the same book of business in terms of number of clients, on average about 350 to 400, which is too high. To give everybody that touch, we have over the last year moved to a tiered model. So we have 4 different customer segments based on ARR. And so the top 2 tiers get more of the white glove, and we're moving to a more digital experience, not completely digital, but a more digital experience with the help of tools like ChurnZero to be able to really focus more of that hands-on touch at the higher level. So we're still transitioning from that perspective. But in terms of the dollar amount, our top CSM is managing a $9 million book of business. And then on average, the rest of them are about anywhere from 2 to 4. We have a little bit of a long tail in terms of some lower ACV customers. So that factors in to the volume for them.
Perfect. A little bit off of the goals and metrics topics, but I think something that is always a hot topic as well is, what skills do you look for when you hire for a CS operations person? Is that a business analyst type? Is that a process type? Is that an implementation type? Is that none of those? I know, Rachel, you kind of mentioned this in the split between the director of CS and perhaps the CS ops person. So I'll let you go ahead and kind of kick us off in that discussion.
Yeah, since this is a CS call and not an HR call, I'll go ahead and say what I really think, which is you're looking for your Enneagram 1s, your type A's, the perfectionists, the people that are going to sit and see a process through and think of all the small details. My CSMs, one of my interview questions, I asked them, what is your pet peeve? And I actually hired someone because she said her pet peeve was when she showed, like, the server comes to the table and their arms all stacked up with the plates, and nobody can remember what they ordered, and this person's standing there like trying to get the weight off them. So like, we knew she was empathetic. So CSMs, I'm looking for relational. They don't mind explaining things. They're empathetic. My ops, I want somebody that's going to look at a number and know that it's right or wrong and what to do with it, and will see the process through. But still loves the client, because they still have to have some empathy too, because they're still serving the client at the end of the day.
Awesome. So we're closing out on our time here. Sorry, Jennifer, did you have any thoughts to add to that?
No, the only, yes, one last thought, project management skills. So in addition to the data piece, being able to manage things as a project is very helpful.
Perfect. So I'm going to take one last question here, and then we'll go ahead and close out. I know we have a ton of questions. I believe I touched on all of them, but please feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions. The last one is, we've talked a lot about improving processes. How do you measure CS efficiency through the ops lens? And I know personally, I think that's, there are so many different ways to do it. So I'm always encouraged to hear kind of different perspectives on that. Jennifer, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I think, for us, implementation is probably the easiest one to take a look at, and it translates into time to being fully implemented. So if we can put technology in place that can speed that time up, or processes in place that can speed that time up, that's a clear representation of creating that efficiency. If they're having to spend less time implementing a client, that means that they should be able to implement more clients, right? So that's an example on that side. In terms of the direct CS piece, it would be really helping them to achieve time to value. So when are they getting the full value out of their product? And are we able to speed up that time? Now, we're not actually tracking that yet, but it's on our list to start taking a look at from that perspective. So that's the way that we're starting to look at that. And then I think the other piece of it is, and I hate that it always comes back to this, but do we have to hire more people? So if we don't have to hire as many people because we're operating more efficiently and we can implement more people and we can manage a larger book of business, then we're demonstrating that we're creating that value for the organization.
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you so much for finishing us out for our latest VRYG on CS operations. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Again, thank you so much, Rachel and Jennifer, for helping present, discuss, and answer all the questions that we've gotten here. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.